Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you a video to make this card with the Technique Junkies stamp. Let's go ahead and fly into it. So I'm going to show you how I made this sort of retro sparkly card with the big background Santa from Technique Junkies and the vertical Merry Christmas, which is a really cool little stamp. So these are the two stamps. Let me get all this set aside and we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with some plain white cardstock. This is just some Bristol Smooth. I'm going to get out my stamping platform and I'm going to stamp Santa. Now he's a very detailed Santa, and this, by the way, is one of my masks that I like to make, and I'll link to a video where I show you how I make this type of a mask. So I'm going to just lay Santa on here. It doesn't really matter where because I'm going to be trimming this down. And I'm going to be using this Black Soot Archival ink to stamp him down because I'll be using some wet media to color him. So I'm going to just give him a good rub with my pressure tool, and I want him a little darker than that, so I'm going to go in a second time. Again, this is a very detailed stamp, very, very retro, so super cool. There's a small stamp just exactly like this in the October release. So make sure to go and check out Technique Junkies for all the October release stamps and other stamps besides that. Now I've got my Santa ready to go here, and I'm going to go ahead and clean off my stamp right away because I do have archival ink on there. And I'm just using some of Ranger's stamp cleaner because I like the smell of it. Hey, smell matters. So I've got my Santa ready, and now I'm going to go ahead and lay my mask down. And these masks are just made from Cricut transfer paper. I stamp down and I add another layer and then I cut them out. Again, I'll link to the video. And I'm going to go in here with prize ribbon and just start to color this in. And notice that I'm going from the inside out so that I don't accidentally roll up my mask because I've used it quite a few times. So it's getting worn. I don't know if you know this or not, but there are a lot of practice pieces that go into creating a design before you actually settle for a final design. And so there was a lot of that last night until I finally settled on this design. So I'm just going all the way around with the Prize Ribbon Distress Oxide. It's just a good shade of blue. I like the combination of the red and blue on this card. So it's almost like a nighttime, almost. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I do want to wipe up my ink here so that I don't transfer it everywhere. Okay, I've got him ready. Now what I want to do is I'm just going to take my fan brush and a little bit of water, and I'm just going to tap water droplets onto here. I don't want giant droplets, that's why I'm using the fan brush. I just want little droplets. And I'm going to let that sit for a couple of seconds and then just take my paper towel and lay it down and lift the ink, and there I've got kind of a snowy background. So now it's safe to pull my Santa mask off, and I'll go ahead and kind of wipe off my mask so it's ready for my next use. And I just like to stick them to the back of the package. All right, now we are going to color Santa, and I like to start with the lightest colors first. So red will be my last color, and this color here is a Distress ink. It's tea dye, and I'm watering it down a little bit, and I'm just taking a little brush. I know it's hard to see on this little red mat, so I'm testing it to make sure that it's actually there on just a piece of scrap paper, and I'm just going to color in where I believe his skin would be. And it's real quick and easy. Doesn't have a lot of skin showing. And there's a little bit of lip. And I just kind of scrub the ink around until I'm happy with it. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be coating this bad boy. So here I've got hickory smoke, and what I'm doing is I'm adding some extra shading in his little beard. Just where the shaded spots are, like where the lines are and the curves and stuff like that. I'm going in with some watered down hickory smoke just to give the beard a little bit more dimension. and hair and eyebrows. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish what's what on this guy. I think that's hair, but it might be part of the hat, but it's fine because we're leaving that part white. And you see how quick and easy this is. Now I'm just kind of spreading this around, adding a little bit more here and there, just where the lines are. And that's it, I'm done with that. Now I'm gonna go in with my Distress Oxide again, and I'm gonna kind of refine these little edges here. Oops, knocked over my iPad sort of, sorry about that. So I'm just kind of going in around and softening up some of those edges and filling in with directly, no water added, with the Prize Ribbon Distress Oxide. Just to kind of make sure that I don't have any weird white spots. It's pretty easy to do, and again, it softens up some of those edges, rounds them out. Done with that, now we're coming to the red. So for this red, I'm using Candied Apple, and I'm using it straight down. I'm not watering it at all. And I'm just going to color in the hat. Very easy coloring. I like coloring with ink versus like markers and stuff. I'm just horrible with markers. It's not that I'm bad with them, I just don't enjoy them. I prefer a paintbrush. So I'm just going in and filling in the hat. Checking for any spots I might have missed. Again, it's not going to be that important by the time you get the glitter down on this here. Just want this resemblance of a red hat there. I'm just checking for any light spots. Now I'm going to go in where these lines are, where it's kind of a, I don't know, it's an artsy part of his Santa suit, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure what those parts are, but that's how I imagine them. I would have to ask the artist, but I think that's what they are. All right, so that's done. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, I have this big old roll of tape. I bought it on Amazon. I think it's made by Elizabeth Craft. And I'm going to lay this down, face down onto that tape. And then I'm going to move my little silicone mat so I can use my knife to cut away the excess. So I'm just moving it around, cutting off any of that excess. If you don't have that kind of tape, you can use, strips of other tape. You can use glue, glossy accents, but, you're going to have to paint it on and risk moving your Santa. So now I'm going to trim this all down with my decal trimmer, and I'm going to trim it to 5 by 3 3/4. And you see, I can see my Santa through that paper. So now I have it the size I want. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab a piece of paper here, a piece of scrap paper. I'm going to lift off my backing and set it aside, but I'm going to be using it again in a minute, so hang tight. Now I've got my Clear Rock Candy Distress Glitter here. You want to use a clear glitter on this type of a situation. You don't want to use like a silvery glitter because you won't be able to see your design. Oops, my camera didn't like my color change there. So now I'm going to get my little scrap piece of paper back out, and then I'm going to take that backing that I pulled off and use it to burnish down all of this glitter. So now there's absolutely no glitter fallout. You have a full-on glitter card with no fallout. I do like to take and edge him, but I'm going to put him on a piece of red cardstock or a red card base. So I'm just going to take some Black Soot Distress ink and go around the edge. Super simple. And I couldn't tell you where I got this red cardstock. I believe I might have gotten it from Simon Says Stamp. I don't know. And then I have this is a piece of fun foam, and it's the color red. So I'm cutting it a little bit smaller than my Santa topper. And I'm just going to peel back the sticky. Yeah, and fight a little bit. Make sure it's stuck down on there without anything sticking out. And it wouldn't really matter because it's going down onto a red card base. You can pop that up any way you like, with regular foam tape, with extra pieces of paper, however you like to pop things up. I'm trying to use up this foam, this fun foam. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to actually move this up a little bit so I can set it aside and we can do our sentiment. And I'm just going to set a heavy acrylic block on top of it. Now I have some of the same red cardstock, and I have this little die, so I'm going to go ahead and die cut this out. And that die measures a 1/2 inch once the piece that's cut out. So I'm going to show you a little trick that that I do, and it's much harder to do on video because my head would be in your way. You're not going to be able to see that. Let me move something so you can actually see what we're seeing. But you can see that that little red strip fits in between the 1/2 inch mark. There we go. Let's make it so you can see it. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to lay my Merry Christmas in the middle of that 1/2 inch mark. Okay, and then I'm going to use some Burst Fine Clair in Nocturne, and I'm going to use this Judikins embossing powder. It's kind of a holographic, sparkly embossing powder, but it's also clear. And then what I can do is I can eyeball and see my head still in the way. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get it in the middle of that. I still don't end up getting it in the middle because I didn't realize my head was in the way. So sorry about that. But I've got it. I'm close enough, you know. I'm fine. I'm not going to get too crazy about it because I'm doing it on video. And I don't mind that there's a little excess of that embossing powder on here because it'll just add to the sparkle. So you see, you kind of can hardly see it until I heat emboss it. So I'll go ahead and emboss this. And kind of waiting on my heat tool to heat up a little because I forgot to preheat it. And see, that'll bring that ink, that black ink right back out. Now we've got our little sparkly Merry Christmas. And then I like to take a pencil and mark, because I'm going to do a fishtail thingy on here. And I like to mark where the middle is, otherwise I can't eyeball it. There's just no way. So I'm just going to snip that little edge and then move my pencil mark. And then this Merry Christmas is just going to get popped up right there. But before I pop it up, I do want to do the edges of that as well, so it kind of enhances and makes it stand out. And then I'll just go ahead and use them. I like to use this really thin foam tape for this because I can get quite a ways down into that little V shape. I'll just take a little extra piece and cut it and put it there. Just fine like that. Pull the backing off. I'm going to turn it kind of sideways so I can get this sort of straight. Pop that down and that card is done. Quick, easy, fun, and beautiful. I hope you like this video. Please visit Technique Junkies, and you can use my code TJ10Color to save 10% on these stamps and all. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, here's another still photo just in case you needed to see it. Thanks for coming. Adios.